I always hate when people say that there are no original movies. Everything is a sequel, everything is a remake, everything is an adaptation of something pre-existing, and there's no good original movies. And I've always disagreed with that. Just look on your Regal app, your AMC app, and there are tons of movies being shown every week. Every week, a new two or three new movies come out, and most of them are original. And so that take always bothered me until this month when I realized that half of them are sequels, there's remakes, there's new adaptations, and there are even rip-offs of movies. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to look over the movies of May. Now, like I said in the intro, there are a ton of remakes, there are some sequels, hell, I would even go as far to say there are some rip-offs. And that was what I felt the common theme of the month. So in this video, I'm going to go over the 10 plus movies that I watched that were all released in the month of May. I will give my opinions, I will put them in a tier list from S to D, and at the end of the video, we'll see, what did I think of the month? Did I think it was a good month compared to last year? Did I think it was a pretty bad month in terms of just quality of movies? We'll see. Oh, and by the way, spoilers for all the movies. Here they are right now, a little title thing, wherever it is, wherever I put it. You can go down in the comments to see the timestamps for each one if you want to skip around or whatever. But I hope you all enjoy. So let's just get started. The first movie we're going to be reviewing is Thunderbolts, the brand new Marvel movie. And I have to say, before I say anything about this movie, I was always on the hype. Maybe not back to when the cast was released, but ever since that first trailer and a little bit before it, I was like, I know what this movie's gonna do. This movie's gonna be great, and nobody would listen to me. Everyone was like, no, that movie sucks. Nobody wants to see these characters, but I was right. Thunderbolts it's amazing. It's definitely one of the higher up MCU movies. Now, I'm a big Marvel nerd, so I love a lot of the movies that were released, but this one, it's just different. It's better than Captain America Brave New World, even though I didn't hate that movie. It's so much better. It does everything really well that it's trying to do. It feels different, it feels fresh, and I really liked all the characters. I know they're not everybody's favorite. I mean, nobody really cares about Ghost, nobody really likes Ant-Man and the Wasp, but I thought she was probably the best part about that pretty mid movie. I always liked John Walker from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, even though I just liked his character. I didn't really like him as a person, and I think I liked what they did with him. I'm not 100% on him being the comedic relief, but he's still great. I like Wyatt Russell as a role, and I'm excited to see him in more things. And then obviously Yelena Belova, Red Guardian, and Bucky Barnes. They're obviously great. Bucky and Yelena are some of my favorite MCU characters, so it was great to see them, I guess, co-lead a movie, even though this is really more of Yelena's movie. And then, of course, you got the new character, Bob, or Sentry. I thought Lewis Pullman was amazing as him, and I'm very excited to see more of him in the new Avengers movie. And it's just all the characters I felt were done really, really well. It had this great, more mature feel. I know the message and the themes in the movie is nothing new, but it's pretty new for Marvel to explore these deep topics, especially with how they did it. I thought The Void was very interesting, a great representation of these dark moments we have in our lives. But that also goes to where my more negative complaints about the movie are. I wish it went more into it. I wish we got to see more of the Void for, Red Guardian, for Bucky, for Ghost, for John Walker, for really any of them, because we really only see them with Yelena and then a little bit of Bob. But, I understand why. We've seen so much of Bucky. We did get a glimpse of John's in the beginning of the movie, and, what are you going to do for Ghost? Ghost isn't really the most fleshed out character, so I kind of understand why they did it. I don't think the movie is necessarily worse off, I would say, for not including those. I just thought that would have been a better moment to just really get us more into these characters that I don't dislike, but more of the mainstream isn't really fans of. And then my other complaint would be I kind of wish they had more like scenes together, because at the end of the movie, it's all of the Thunderbolts or new Avengers come together to hug Bob to get him away from the void, and it's a very sweet moment. But then you're kind of thinking, like, why is Bucky and Red Guardian there if they've never really met Bob? The only time they've interacted with him was when Sentry kicked their ass at the Avengers Tower. And so, do they really care? I guess Bucky, is in a similar situation. He's been controlled, like Bob is being controlled by Val and all that. And I guess Red Guardian kind of could see him as like a son figure. He just loves Yelena so much that he's just doing it for her. Whatever. I just kind of wish there was more moments of them together to really reinforce that moment. But those are really my only complaints. The movie, it's a little short. I mean, it's 2 hours. It's a great length. It feels short, I guess is what I should say. I kind of wish there were more. I felt like after I watched the first trailer, I kind of watched all of the movie, because that's kind of really it. I just kind of wish there was more of it. Maybe that's because I just liked it so much that I just wanted to keep watching it. And so for Thunderbolts or the New Avengers, I'm going to put it in the A tier. Next up, we have the brand new Nicolas Cage movie, The Surfer. Now, this movie's, it's a little weird. I hate using that word to describe movies, but it was something when I was watching and when I walked out of the theater, I really couldn't put my finger on what he was trying to do. Now, the movie's about Nick Cage. He's in Australia. He's trying to surf on this beach that he grew up on, but they're like, no, only locals can do it. And then he gets tormented by them and blah blah blah. At the end, he's able to surf on it, but it's an odd movie. It kind of feels like it's this parody of toxic masculinity, which it goes into at some points, especially with the main characters, because they're all these big, dudes, and they're like, oh yes, we're this like cult or whatever. I'm trying to explain it the best I can, but it's just really hard to explain. And so I was like, okay, this is just a classic take on toxic masculinity, but it doesn't really do that. There are like elements of it, but at the end of the movie, the like surfers just like die. They get killed by a homeless man, and then it's like there's no point, there's no lesson, there's really no like reason for the movie. And so it was just weird to like walk out of the theater and be like, what is this movie like trying to say? Because it feels like the movie that's trying to send a message, but it has no message. And I think that is the worst part about it. A lot of it also feels very style over substance. There are some cool shots. There are some weird little moments that are like, ooh, this is so indie movie we're going. But there's really, like I said, there's no message. There's no point of the movie. Nick Cage is great. Like, he's great in everything. I liked the other surfer actors. I don't know any of their names. But one thing that I kind of hate about like all movies with like bullies in it, they're just like psychopaths. Like, they're crazy, like inhumane, like activities that they do to random people. They do just horrible things, and it obviously makes you root against them, but it's just kind of like, I don't even want to watch this because this is just making me mad that these like people are doing this to like for no reason. They're doing it to a normal person for no reason, and it just kind of made me upset. And so it just kind of, the whole thing felt like a parody, but it's short. It's like 90 some to 100 minutes, so it's not that long. It's fun at points, it's interesting at points, but I think the end, while it's not like horrible, it just kind of falls flat. But I did enjoy it. I enjoyed elements of it. I probably didn't give the most masterful review because I'm filming this video like about a month after I watched it, and so it's like it was already confusing to explain like right as I was leaving the theater, and so it's even more difficult now. But I'm gonna give The Surfer a B. So next up we have Clown in a Cornfield. Now, I love horror movies. I love all the bad ones. I love all the good ones. But sometimes you just get one that's just it just kind of insults you to watch it. Now, Clown in a Cornfield is about a group of kids who are in this town, but in the town all the adults are evil and they want to kill all the kids. And so they dress up as clowns and goes around killing all the kids. And that sounds like a stupid movie because it's a stupid movie. Everything about it kind of feels like it's a Disney Channel, like when they did the Halloween specials. You know, you got your Ant Farm Halloween episode, your Jessie Halloween episode. This is kind of what it feels like. And I'll say the positives right now before I go on a rant about how much I dislike this movie. It has some cool kills. That's always great from a horror movie. It has some good gore when it goes practical, but there's a lot of bad blood CGI that is very noticeable, and it's used quite a bit throughout the movie, which it's like, okay, you could have done this practical because you did other stuff practical, so why not just do it all? And that would have made me like it more because you can always respect that. But it's just like, I don't mind when CGI like gore is used in horror movies, but when it looks bad, it looks really bad. So let's just get the positives out of the way right now. It has some decent kills. The gore is fine for the most part. It's practical and it looks good. You know, obviously I can't do anything better, but it's not horrible. And I really liked Kevin Durant's performance as the mayor of the town or whatever. He was great. Like, actually, he was actually really good in this movie, and he made me like it a little bit more. But everything else really sucks about this movie. It is 96 minutes long and it feels short. It doesn't drag at all. In fact, it is quite fast paced, which is very nice for bad movies because you love it when they're over, and that's always a great thing to see that they're short. But everything else was just so hard to watch. Like I mentioned, it feels like a Disney Channel movie. All the acting from the kids, you know, I hate saying acting is bad because I'm not a superb actor. I probably couldn't do better. And for the most part, it's probably the direction they were given. But it's kind of just cringeworthy, a lot of the acting. But that's also kind of because of the script. The script isn't great. It's really corny. It feels like the director just told all the teen actors to just say what they think is like cool or like quippy, and so every line, especially once all the action starts happening, it's every line is just, oh, you should not mess with teenagers. It's all just badly timed comedic like quips, or like they're trying so hard to be badass and it just never works. And the plot twist is really stupid. So it's I don't it's this weird movie. It's like trying to say that, oh, this like clown is going around killing people, but then, oh my god, there's two clowns. Oh no, there's three, there's four. And then once I saw there were multiple, I immediately clocked it that every adult is evil in this town, and it's such an easy plot twist to get. It's also just really stupid. Like, every adult is evil and just wants to kill all the kids because they're kids and like they don't want to live in like the 50s anymore. It's just so stupid, and it doesn't make any sense because how would this go on? If you're killing all the kids, then how are more people gonna be in the town? Like, if and it's like, are the kids growing up to be those adults in the it just doesn't make any sense. It's really stupid. This whole movie's stupid. This movie sucks. I'm gonna put Clown in the Cornfield in the D tier. Next up, we have Fight or Flight. And if you've heard about this movie, you've probably heard that this is just an exact Bullet Train ripoff, but much worse. And that's right. It is the very similar plot where an assassin is on a confined space with other assassins. In Bullet Train, they're obviously on a bullet train. In this movie, they're on an airplane, which sounds interesting. And for the most part, it is interesting. They're on a plane. They're on this place that can't they can't leave for like 15 or 14 hours or however long they're on it for. And so that's pretty interesting already. And Josh Hartnett is always fun to watch. It's an action movie. The action's good. A lot of it's good. Some of it is like, oh my god, I can't believe they did that. You know, you get your little reaction, which is always fun to have during an action movie. But everything besides that isn't great. All the stuff that's off the plane isn't interesting. It's not fun to watch. Any of the characters besides Josh Hartnett aren't interesting either. A lot of the assassins are just guys in like street clothes because they're trying to blend in, which I guess it makes sense, they're trying to blend in. But like when you're copying Bullet Train so closely, at least have like fun, zany characters. Like Bullet Train had so many great side characters. That is the reason that movie is great and so fun to watch. But this movie, like everyone is either in street clothes or in like a wacky little shirt because I don't know, they like stole it off like a street vendor. And so all the side characters are just like really boring. None of them stand out. They're all just assassins. They're all middle-aged guys in street clothes and you know, nothing interesting about them, which really brings down the movie because Josh Hartnett is fun to watch. He is a semi-interesting character. Like he's wanted by the government, and so he fled to Indonesia, I think, and just lives there. And he has beef with the head of the CIA or FBI or whoever the main girl is. I don't really remember. And it's not really interesting because there's nothing cool about it. He's just went rogue for the right reason and now he's paying the price for it. And the CIA is evil. They're just like tech company. It's not even the CIA. Now that I'm remembering it, she's like, I guess she works for the government, but there's like this odd like reveal in the middle of a movie where they like just run this big like tech giant and they're trying to steal this like AI. It's weird. Nothing about the plot is really interesting or good. It's all just kind of basic at best, but like messy at worst. But like I said, the action is good. There are some really, you know, crazy, funny moments that happen. But what really sucks is that the CGI is horrible. A lot of the blood that they use with blood spraying, it's very, very noticeably bad CGI. And it really takes you out from all like the mayhem that's going. And that wouldn't be a huge problem, you know, one or two with like bad blood CGI. Okay, it's excusable, you know, budget, time, all that stuff. But it's like everything in the final action sequence is just like covered in bad like blood CGI just spraying everywhere. And it really, really takes you out of it. But for the most part, it's a fun time since the majority of the movie does take place on the plane and it's all action. You know, that can make it enjoyable. And if you love Josh Hartnett, you'll probably enjoy it. It's not a bad, it's an okay movie. It's not horrible. It's not great, but there are some fun moments to be had about it. Plus, it's less than 2 hours, which is bearable. And so I'm gonna give Fight or Flight a C. Next up, we have Friendship, the brand new A24 Paul Rudd, Tim Robinson movie that is really pretty good. You know, I wasn't really expecting much. I saw the trailer once and I was like, what is this movie about? This kind of gives me like thriller vibes, like, but it's like a comedy and it's a weird movie and it's kind of hard to explain. Now, I'm not a big fan of Tim Robinson. I've never watched his show. I've only seen like bits from it. And so I don't love his sense of humor, but I did think this movie was really funny. It has a lot of Tim Robinson jokes, so if you hate his humor, you're gonna hate this movie. If you love it, you're gonna love this movie. But I think even if you don't like enjoy it a ton, because it is kind of just, you know, screaming random words and like saying stuff in funny voices, but you know, some of the bits are pretty funny. I think the acting's great. The story, it makes more sense when you watch the movie. It's a little weird at points because sometimes it feels like it's kind of playing a prank on you because you're like, oh, this is just a normal movie about two middle-aged guys who are friends, but then they're not friends because one of them is just a weirdo. And then it all of a sudden turns into like a Gone Girl type thing where, oh my god, I went into the sewer with my wife and now she's missing for like days. And then this whole like police thing, and it's just a crazy little movie. But I think it just does it really well, and like even though it kind of feels like you're being like pranked, but it feels like that in the best way possible. And I did really like Tim Robinson's character. It's kind of like in the beginning of the movie, you kind of feel bad for him because he's just like a weirdo loser who doesn't have any friends. And then as the movie goes on, you're kind of like, I understand why this guy doesn't have friends because he's a weirdo. He's crazy. He just like doesn't really understand anything, and but you kind of feel bad, and then you kind of dislike him, and then you kind of feel bad again, and it's fun to watch because it's not like a downer movie. It's just funny. It's like comedically bad luck, and it's really fun to watch. And so Friendship, I can't really say much about this movie. It's just kind of like an experience you have to watch. It has some really, really funny bits and just jokes all around. Like I said, if you hate Tim Robinson's humor, you're probably not going to enjoy it that much, but I still think it's worth the watch. So I'm going to put Friendship in the A tier. So here we go with the next, probably biggest movie of the month, Final Destination Bloodlines. Now, I'm not a big Final Destination fan. I think the best of them is good. I think the worst of them is pretty bad. But I think for the most part, they're all just pretty average, combined. And this one, sadly, doesn't really break the mold with that. I was pretty let down with this movie. I think it's easily the best of them. Like, none of them really nail the story. I think this one doesn't nail it, but it still has some cool ideas. I like the bloodline theme, and that this accident that the beginning accident that was stopped saved like hundreds of people, and they all had families, and so Death had to go through each of the family tree to get to them, and that would have been really interesting, but that's not really explained in the movie or gone into. Like, yes, it is with the main family, but when you watch the movie, there's only like 4 deaths in the entire thing. While I was editing this video, I realized I kind of misspoke or didn't make my point very clear. Instead of 4 deaths, I kind of meant 4 like elaborate death scenes. Obviously, there's more than 4 deaths in the movie, but sometimes there's one, the classic elaborate death scene where something's set up, something's, oh, this is gonna get you, but it's actually this, whatever, all that. And I really meant that really only happens 3, maybe 4 times. If you want to stretch it even a little bit more, you could maybe squeeze out 5. And what I just remember of the movie is just a lot of them were, good, as, Final Destination are, but some of them kind of just didn't really feel like the elaborateness of the previous Final Destination movies. And that is kind of what I'm saying, where those kind of blended into just, normal stuff and not really Final Destination stuff. And that's what I meant. But I think the worst part about this movie is the kills, which sucks because that's what this franchise is known for. This franchise has always had great kills, even in the really bad movies. And while the kills themselves are, good, they're creative, they're elaborate. Well, they're not as elaborate as the other movies, which also sucks. But the worst part about them is it's all ugly. This whole movie itself is a pretty ugly movie. It sucks that this franchise that is 25 years old, that's known for its great practical kills, doesn't have any like noticeable practical effects in it. All the kills are either fully CGI or they're enhanced by CGI, and it just looks ugly. A lot of them, it's just noticeable, and it's not horrible. It's not as bad as like Fight or Flight's Blood CGI or some other movies released recently. It's just kind of a letdown, because this, like, the first Final Destination movie came out in 2000, I think, and it had great practical effects. Same with the second one, same with the third one. not so much the fourth one, but the fifth one had elements of it. And those movies are 10, 20 years old, and they look better than this movie. And it just doesn't stop there with the bad, like, gore CGI. It's also the green screen. I think I might be the only person who thinks the tower kill, like the flashback kill at the beginning that's all over the trailers, I think I'm the only person that thinks that looks really ugly. Like, it looks, I guess that's kind of the point. It's this glossy 1950s feel, and so it kind of looks just like fake, but it's just so noticeable, and it always took me out of it every time it went to there. And then I just can't get over the death, and like how they just I I I I don't know. I saw some behind the scenes footage, and I saw they do use practical effects, and so I don't know why it just looks so bad in the movie. I think it's because they enhance everything with CGI. They go a little too overboard. And like I said earlier, I'm not a big like CGI hater. I think it's fine that movies use them, especially for stuff like this that they can't do practically. But this franchise is just known for its practical effects, and it kind of sucks that the most modern one with probably the most potential for the best looking one, it just looks ugly. But I do like all the characters. I think they're all fun to watch. I think the story is interesting. It has its moments. It has potential. I kind of wish they went into more of the Bloodline stuff. But, and while I just spent like the past 4 minutes just crapping on this movie, I don't think it's horrible. I still think it's easily the best of them. The CGI is the worst part, and it's just kind of like upsetting. It's kind of like a letdown to think about. And so I'm going to give Final Destination Bloodlines a B. Now we have probably the most controversial take that's going to be in this video. We have Hurry Up Tomorrow. It's the new Weekend movie. It's directed by Trey Edward Schultz, who directed Waves, and I liked Waves. I know a lot of people have their complaints about it, but I think for the most part, Waves is a great movie, and so I was excited for this. You know, the trailer, it looked interesting. I didn't really know what to expect. I like The Weeknd's music. I think Jenna Ortega is a great actor. I think Barry Keoghan's also a great actor. And so I was kind of, you know, excited for this movie. And then once it came out, I saw all the very, very negative reviews, everyone completely trashing on this movie. And I was like, oh God, I can't wait to be severely disappointed for 2 hours or however long this movie is. And then I watched it, and I'm gonna say I liked it. I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was interesting in weird ways. This movie, it's like a lot of other movies I've talked about today and we'll talk about later. It's odd. It's kind of odd to explain. There's no real story. Most of it is just style over substance. But that style looks great. There's a lot of beautiful shots in this, great cinematography, especially in the beginning. It kind of fades a little bit more towards the end, but I also think the last half is the better part of the movie. I think similar to Friendship, if you don't like The Weeknd's music or just The Weeknd as a person, you're gonna hate this movie. But if you really like The Weeknd's music, like I do, I really like The Weeknd. You can't see it up here. No, it's not up. But I do have Dawn FM vinyl, because Dawn FM, you know, another controversial take, is my favorite Weeknd album. I think it's if it's one of, if not his best. And that also brings me to the next point. I know this review is all over the place, kind of like the movie. It's kind of just like getting into character. I really didn't like when Jenna Ortega said that Dawn FM was a failure, because that album was top tier. But let's get back to the movie. So a big topic that I probably have to cover is The Weeknd's acting. Now, I never watched The Idol, but I have seen clips and where his acting isn't great. And like I said in Clown and Cornfield, I don't really like shitting on people's acting because I'm not a superb actor. I don't really know what I'm talking about either. But The Weeknd, he kind of gets a pass on that because he's so famous, he's so rich. You know, who really cares? But I don't think his acting in this is horrible. It's just very noticeable because Jenna Ortega, when they're in scenes together, she is just like on an entirely different level than The Weeknd in like terms of acting. And so it's like it's very very noticeable to see this like great actor and then just this mediocre actor together. And that, I think that's kind of why people were so severely like shitting on his acting, because it's very very noticeable. There's like a crazy difference between him and her. And also the same with Barry Keoghan. He's also an amazing actor, and so when he's in scenes of The Weeknd, while he doesn't have as much to do as Jenna Ortega, you can still see the difference in acting ability. And then the story of this movie, it's weird. Like, I can't even begin to explain it, because it kind of feels like, I'm assuming this movie is about The Weeknd's, life, his mental state, because it's called Hurry Up Tomorrow. He's obviously the main character, but he has an album with the same name, and so I'm assuming that he was very in the working process of this movie. And so, like, it's just kind of weird. I don't really understand it, because in the beginning of the movie it's just a concert and he's dealing with like breaking up with this girl, and the like I don't know, like that one Liv and Maddie episode where they said that Liv couldn't sing or she would like ruin her verse forever, and that's kind of what happens here in the beginning of the movie. And then it's like it's weird because it's just like two concerts, and then periodically it'll flash back to Jenna Ortega just like running away from home. But in the second half of the movie, which I do think is the better half of the movie, I think once Jenna Ortega's character and The Weeknd's character meet, I think that's when the movie really picks up. But once they meet, and there's like this weird psychic trip, and it's she like takes him hostage, and it's kind of implied that none of it's real, and that Jenna Ortega's character is like a sleep paralysis demon, or just like this figment of his imagination that's just meant to torment him until he realizes his faults and all that. And it's just it kind of like contradicts itself. Plus the themes and like the takes on like obsession and heartbreak and anxiety and all that stuff it's very surface level. Like there's a scene in the movie where Jenna Ortega is like listening to the Weeknd songs, and she listens to Blinding Lights and Gasoline, and she's like, oh, these songs, they're very upbeat and you just want to dance when you hear them. But if you actually listen to the lyrics, they're actually really sad. Like, and I was in the theater, I was kind of rolling my eyes like, yes, we know The Weeknd makes sad music that feels upbeat. Yes, everybody knows this. It's just the whole like takes about this movie. It feels so surface level. But that didn't stop me from enjoying it. I did enjoy this movie. I think the second half, like I said, after Jenna Ortega's character and The Weeknd's character meet, I think that is where the movie picks up a lot, and it's where it actually has some like etchings of what could be a great movie. And I just feel like if they had like anyone, just pick a guy off the street to read over the script and make edits to it, and just like change it up a little bit and just really like redefine it and just like make it better, I think this could have been a great movie. So I'm going to give Hurry Up Tomorrow a B. Maybe I was a little wrong last time about saying that was my most controversial opinion. I think this one might be a contender, because now we're looking at Lilo and Stitch, the 2025 remake of the classic Disney animated movie of the same name. Now, I just want to preface this by saying, while I was born around the same time that Lilo and Stitch came out, I didn't really grow up watching it. I obviously knew who Stitch was, but I've only seen it for the first time a couple weeks ago. And so I didn't really have this nostalgia for it, like with many of these Disney Channel live action remakes. And so I think that might contributed to why I don't hate this remake. I think it is unnecessary. There is no reason for it to exist, especially since the original only came out 23 years ago. It came out in like 2002, I think. And so I see more reason to why Snow White got remade instead of Lilo and Stitch. But I like the original one. I think the original one is obviously much, much better than this live action remake. But I don't think this is bad. I think this is probably, of the live action remakes I've seen, which is the Snow White one, the Lion King, and Mufasa, if you count that, even though that's more of a sequel than a remake. I think this is probably the best of those three. I haven't seen like the like 2010s, like Cinderella or Beauty and the Beast one. So I can only count the more recent ones, but I think it is better than all of those. Now, I'm kind of indifferent on how it is made. The story is different. It's not an exact ripoff, which, I like. I appreciate that it's not just the exact same thing over again. And there are some very different plot points that happen in a very different ending, which I don't necessarily like or agree with, but I can at least appreciate that it's different. I think Stitch looks amazing. I mean, he's still as fun and cute as he was in the animated movie, but I think the other CGI is it's good, especially like in the beginning when they're in space and when there's no human element or like real world element. I think the CGI looks pretty good. But when it seems of Pleakley and Jumba just together amongst humans, especially Pleakley, I think looks the worst. I don't. It just looks weird and like he's not really there, which because they're not. They're weird alien creatures. But I don't think it mixes perfectly. But Stitch, I think, consistently looks great when he's interacting with Lilo, when he's interacting with other aliens. I think it all looks great. I don't think this is as funny as the animated movie. It has some funny moments, but a lot of it just feels like it's trying too hard, especially Pleakley. I'm gonna mention him a lot. He is my least favorite part about the movie. I just thought he was trying too hard, especially when he was in human form. I'm forgetting the actor's name, but it just kind of felt a little cringy. But there are still some funny moments, but this whole thing really lacks the charm and like the soul of the original animated movie. Now, taking the ending at face value, I think when I first watched this, I did think people were exaggerating about how horrible it is, because I think it's a fine ending, but as I see more people talk about the importance of the animated ending and the importance of Nani and Lilo staying together, especially as Hawaiians, I can understand the weird, changes to Nani leaving or giving up Lilo in order to go pursue a education. I can understand how that can sour some people a little bit. And so all in all, I think this is a fine remake. I think if the original movie never existed, I think this movie would probably just fade into the Disney movies that just come out every year. It wouldn't have been so popular or whatever. I think obviously the original IP carries this movie. It's good in terms of Snow White and the Lion King remake, but in just like normal Disney stories, I think it changes stuff that were great about the original movie and doesn't really bring any of the original charm or like color or soul that just was filled in the original. And this one, it just kind of lacks a lot of stuff. But I didn't hate it. Like I said, I didn't grow up watching the original, so I don't have so much nostalgia for it, or I don't have so much disdain that my beloved IP was ruined. So I'm going to put Lilo and Stitch in the B tier. And speaking of Disney Channel original movies, we have Fear Street Prom Queen. Now, I know this might be a blasphemous thing to say, but I don't like any of the original Fear Street movies. That trilogy, I just thought it was kind of childish, even though like watching them, they're not really like meant for a child. They're more teen adult movies, but they just like kind of felt like a Disney Channel movie, like I said with Clown in a Cornfield. And this one just takes that to a whole new level. Now, I think the original trilogy has some moments. I think they have personality that makes them stand out. to other horror movies of this similar like archetype. And this fourth installment completely lacks all of that. This movie is set in the 80s, but there is absolutely nothing to tell you that it's in the 80s besides every couple of minutes a classic 80s song starts playing, and then there's an occasional VHS footage insert. But besides that, this has no soul, no identity, because at least all the other Fear Street movies, the 1998 one, part one, I think, it's neon, it has 90s music, it has 90s aesthetics. The 76 one is set in a camp, it has old fashioned stuff and all that. The 1666 one is set in like a medieval like witch town or whatever they're called. And this one just lacks all of it. This takes place at a high school prom, and it's just it's so stupid. So the main plot is there's 5 high school girls who are all competing for prom queen. 2 of them are outcast. The rest are like this one popular girl clique, and there's led by one girl, and she's the queen bee of the school, and you better not get in her way because spoiler alert, her 2 parents and her are all psychopaths and start killing the other candidates because apparently being prom queen is like this sacred rite of passage for their family, because that's the highest honor anyone can ever do in their life, is be prom queen and have a prom king by their side. And you probably think I'm exaggerating a little bit because that is the stupidest premise for a horror movie, but no, that's it. The main like antagonist parents murder teenagers so their daughter can be prom queen. And little flashback, because when the parents were in high school, they murdered the protagonist's father because the mother of the protagonist was going to be prom queen, but they didn't want that to happen, so they framed her of murder. And it's like this is the most insane thing ever. Like I get it's a movie, it's not real, but like this is stupid. Like the first trilogy was about witches, but that was so much more believable than whatever this is. Like why, who would do that? It's prom, it's high school prom. Did people in the 80s really care about it that much to go murder the other like contestants of the like it's so stupid, and it's just like it's so stupid, and that's like all I can say about this movie. But besides that, the acting is also subpar. It really feels like a Disney Channel movie. The kills they're boring. They're like okay. Some of them are like fine, but none of them stand out. The CGI blood is bad. It's so soulless, and it's just like, why does this exist? Because it doesn't connect to the original trilogy at all. There's no witches. There's no setup for like an expanded story. It feels like this one-off thing that's only using the Fear Street name for its clout. And it just takes everything I hated about the Fear Street trilogy and just puts it all into one really horrible mess of a stupid, bland, soulless movie. So I'm going to put Fear Street Prom Queen in the D tier. Next up we have Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, the epic conclusion to the near 30-year franchise, and it lives up to all that hype. Now, I recently watched all of the Mission Impossible movies in preparation for this. I saw Dead Reckoning in theaters when it came out, but at that time that was the only one I saw, and I loved Dead Reckoning. I think all of these movies are great, with the worst one being fine. And so I was very excited for this. I really liked Dead Reckoning, so I was excited to what they would do. And for this to be the finale of them, obviously it's going to take some big swings. And it delivers on mostly every front. Now, this movie is almost 3 hours long, And the beginning is definitely the slowest part. It's filled with exposition, which isn't horrible, but it can just feel like a lot at points because these movies aren't known for their continuity. None of them really flow into each other. You can really just watch any of them in any order and understand it. Obviously, this is a part 2 to Dead Reckoning. That's really the only one you need to watch to understand what's going on. But this one, it really emphasizes that it is the last one, which it has so many different elements from the other ones. The One of the characters from the first movie comes back into this one. The main whatever it's called, the main device in the third movie is actually the evil AI in this movie. And so it's cool to see. It's cool to see there actually be continuity, but there are definitely points where it feels redundant. I do like some of the continuity. Like I said, I like the reveal that the evil disease from the third movie is brought back and is actually shown to be the entity in this movie and in Dead Reckoning. I thought that was cool because that was my biggest complaint about the third movie. It was that it wasn't really explored what the disease or whatever it was called was. And the return of that one guy, I don't know his name, from the first movie, I thought that was interesting. Oh, that's a fun reference. It was a little weird to see him be part of the final team with his wife, and it just kind of, it was a little goofy at points because they were like, okay, is he really I liked that he was in that part, but then I didn't want him to die or anything. It was just kind of weird to see him with with Ethan Hunt, with Haley Atwell's character, with Simon Pegg, with all these people, and it's just like this guy again, and it just kind of felt a little weird. But I think that's really because these movies aren't known for their continuity. So having the final one just force all this stuff, some of it works really well, but a lot of it feels really like nostalgia bait. But I think what really did it for me was Shea Wiggum's character being the secret son of the villain in the first movie. It just kind of feel like that was really the point where okay, this is just going too far. It doesn't really do anything for the story because that character doesn't care about Ethan killing his dad or any of that. He just it felt pointless. And that's also in the beginning of the movie, there's a lot of exposition. They're like, oh, you remember this thing from that movie, and then there's a flashback, and then oh, you saved this person, and then there's a flashback. But that just happened. That was the last movie. Why, I understand that people watching this probably didn't watch the other movies because I went with my parents and they haven't seen any of the Mission Impossible movies. And so I assume a lot of the people that watch it haven't seen them. And so I can understand that. But I'm like, you can piece this together because Pom Clementief's character, I don't know if I'm saying her name right, but she was saved by Ethan Hunt in the last movie. And then in the beginning, they're like, you saved this character, and then flashback. And then they meet again later on, and you saved me, why? And I'm like, we know, we get it, we don't need to see this over and over again. But I think that problem is reserved to the first 40 minutes to an hour of the movie, and then once Ethan gets to the submarine, that's when this movie goes from pretty good, on par with the earlier Mission Impossible, the first three, and then it skyrockets up to Ghost Protocol and Fallout and Dead Reckoning levels. I think the final stunt, the airplane one, is probably the best in the franchise. At first I was like, okay, this is kind of just like a copy of Fallout, him climbing up to the plane while it's flying and then flying it, but then he gets out of that plane onto the other plane in midair, and then that was the point I was like, okay, this is clearly the best one, and there's no way this can be topped. But besides the stunt, this movie also looks amazing. There's so many beautifully shot moments, especially underwater. It's all so tense. It's perfectly shot. It's perfectly acted. I'm a big fan of Tom Cruise. I know he's a little weird, but I love all his movies. I think this one, It's great. I don't think this is the best of them. It has some clunky moments, some things that I would fix, but I think it serves as a great finale to the franchise. Now, I don't think this is going to be the last one. It didn't really feel like an ending to Ethan Hunt. I feel like in a couple years they're gonna come back and Tom Cruise is gonna like train the new Ethan Hunt. They're gonna do like a reboot franchise or whatever. But I don't believe that this is going to be the last one. I don't know. It kind of feels like it, but it also kind of doesn't. But like I said, I don't think this is the best Mission Impossible. My ranking would go from best to worst: Fallout, Dead Reckoning, Ghost Protocol, then Final Reckoning, then Rogue Nation, then 1, 3, and 2. But like I said earlier, I think 2 is the worst, but I think it's fine. I don't think it's bad. I don't think any of these movies are bad. I think 3 or 1 and up are all great. I think 3 is pretty good. I think 2 is just fine. And this is a great franchise. I think this was a great ending to this franchise. So I'm going to give Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning an A. Alright, next up we have Karate Kid Legends. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the other Karate Kid movies. I think the first one is good. I think the rest are kind of mid to bad. And so I don't really care about this franchise. It's not very exciting to me to see Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio return to this. But I like this movie. I think it might be better than the first one. At least it's like on the similar level. They're kind of interchangeable for me. You know, there are some good things about it. It's not the exact same story as all the other 5 movies, which is nice. I mean, it follows the same themes. Obviously, a kid moves to a different part of the world. He falls in love with the girl who has a psychopath ex-boyfriend. They fight the main character and the enemy. They show like, oh, I respect you now, and then the two main characters, they start dating and whatever. But I like Jackie Chan in this. I think he's funny. I think he's a lot better than he was in the 2010 remake with Jaden Smith. I like Ben Wang. I hope I'm saying that right. I think he's a great protagonist. I think he matches Ralph Macchio from the first movie. I think he's better than the protagonist in all the other ones. And I also like Ralph Macchio returning. I think that was cool. It's a little lessened by the fact that he and the guy that plays Lawrence, spoiler alert, the guy that plays Lawrence from the first movie, the villain, they both return. But I think it's lessened that they were both in the entirety of Cobra Kai, so it's not that cool to see them return. But I never watched Cobra Kai, so I just watched these movies for the first time like a couple weeks ago. And so I wasn't like, oh my god, they're back, this is so cool. I was like, oh, that's cool. Especially since Ralph Macchio's all over the marketing for this movie. But, you know, it's short. It's like 90 to 100 minutes. So it's nice. It's fast paced. It doesn't feel long. It has some cool editing moments, but a lot of it does kind of feel a little clunky at points. There is a annoying constant needle drop of songs. Like every like 2 minutes there's a brand new song playing. In one scene there's like 4 different songs that just play back to back, and it's like, okay, are we really doing this? Like, how many songs do we need in a damn scene? But I think it's fun. You know, on Karate Kid standards, I think it's good. For, you know, your average like comeback sports story like with Karate Kid and with Rocky and Creed and stuff like that, I think it kind of falls flat on those points. But it's a fun time. It goes by quick. It has nice moments. It has fun moments. It has some sweet moments. But, you know, it's about what I expected from this movie. I may have liked it a little bit more than I thought I would have, but it's nothing really groundbreaking. But if you love this franchise, if you love the first movie and the 2010 movie, you'll probably enjoy this a bit. I don't know, you might hate it but it's a good fun time. Nothing really special about it, So I'm going to give Karate Kid Legends a B. And lastly, we have Bring Her Back, the brand new Filippo, if I'm saying that right, Brothers movies. I have not seen Talk to Me. I've always wanted to, but it's just kind of like past my mind every time I'm deciding to watch a movie. And so I've heard the great things about that movie, and I saw the great things about this movie, so I was pretty excited. But I can't lie and say that I was a little let down with it. Now, from the trailers, I was expecting this really weird, bizarre, cultish movie, and that's not really what it is. But this movie does have some amazing things about it. First, the acting from everyone, to the adopting mother to the little, like, 10-year-old boy. Everyone in this movie is phenomenal. And I truly mean, this is some of the best acting I've seen in probably all year. I don't think I've seen anything better than this. And I think it has some really great dynamics. A lot of this movie kind of feels like a family movie. Obviously, there's a brother and a sister who are step siblings, and their dad just died, so they move in with this adopted mother who is trying to bring her dead daughter back using this ritualistic cult, and I think that's pretty interesting. But I was kind of disappointed that it kind of flip-flops between them. It's like most of the part it's this family drama, experiencing the grief of a passing father, and then the son having to hide from his sister the terrible things that the dad did just to protect her, and he's trying so hard to protect her from this really weird woman that's taking advantage of her. But she just doesn't realize it, and the mom's manipulating, and it's this really interesting dive into like this broken family. And then it sometimes flashes to like, oh yeah, this is a horror movie, by the way. And I think that's the worst part. I think it goes in the middle of both of them too much, to where at least I was hoping it would explore this like ritual and cult stuff more in the movie, because it doesn't really flesh out any of it. But it does have some pretty creepy moments. There's no like big jump scares, but there is one moment that I was like, okay, that's actually really creepy. And then there are also a couple moments where I was like, where I did have to look away because it was disgusting. Some of the like gore in this movie is nasty. It's really, really gross. And so, I can applaud them for that. And so I recognize that this is a great movie. I recognize that people would love this movie and why they would. I just was kind of let down, I think, because of my own, thoughts going into it. I was expecting one thing and it was just something else, and that kind of let me down. I kind of wish it went more into the horror stuff. In my eyes, the best word I could use to describe this movie is like underexploring its potential, because it was like really interesting, and a lot of it is really interesting. Like I said, there's great dynamics, phenomenal acting, great gore, but I just kind of wish it was something else, if that makes any sense. And I know that's a hot take. I understand if you like this movie. I kind of want to go rewatch it again. Hopefully I like it a little bit more, but I just kind of left the theater feeling a little underwhelmed. And so I'm going to give Bring Her Back a B. And that is all for the movies of May. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found some of my takes insightful. Let me know in the comments, what did you think about these movies? Do you agree with my overall tier list? Do you disagree? Is there any movie I missed that you wish I talked about? Are there movies you're looking forward to next month for June, July, whatever? I will be back next month to talk about the movies of June, the following month, the month after that, and then in January 26th, we'll probably talk about the movies of 2025, do a full list of every movie that I watch, probably a lot longer than this video, hopefully. I don't know, we'll see. Thank you all so much for watching. Like the video, subscribe, comment down below your opinions, your hot takes, whatever, and I'll see you guys next month. Thank you all.